Hello, this is Aaron over here. Long overdue video, I think. I said before I was going to go into a little bit of the making of Retro Game Challenge 2, some of the stuff that went on behind the scenes during development. So I guess I'm going to start over here right now. I have the site webpage open. It's available, gccxpatch.com. You've all probably seen it before if you're looking at this video, I think there. It's easy to check on there. It turned out very well, I thought, and afterwards I got asked a little bit about the making of it, how complicated it was to actually do this sort of thing. And, well, I'm going to show you a little bit about how it was done right now. Okay, so basically in 2013 I decided to take on this project, and let's zoom on over here. I wasn't sure where to start with this, so I managed to extract the ROM and expanded it, where I was presented with a huge list of files over here. Overlay files, not too much over there, though later I found out that those contained strings used in the RPG and the adventure and a few other main game text strings over there. And fortunately, because each Nintendo DS game is a bit different, I was worried about the structure of this, because sometimes there's only a few compressed files and nothing else. But I was very fortunate in that everything in this game is split up into nice folders and files, and it's not so hard to work with in theory. Well, one thing I wanted to get out of the way first was getting the text. And fortunately, the original team had some of that text already, and I was able to make use of that in the main Audino dialogue. However, it's not so straightforward, because when you get the text in the game, they're all in LBS files, which are basically unreadable as far as plain text files goes. I mean, you could hex edit if you really want to, they're compressed. So I had a user, Nagato, come on in, and he managed to write a program that extracted the strings from these files and exported them into nice XML files. And so, for example, if I open up one over here with, let's see here, sorry, go to strings. If you open up over here with the extracted text, I've already translated that. This is for the adventure game, but a lot of the text works the same way. You basically have different string entries over here, and all of these need to be translated, and there are a few control codes in there as well. And you enter the text in here just in plain text format, and when I was done with that, I actually have a script over here, conversion tool, LBS tool, which can convert from XML file to LBS as well as LBS to XML, and that goes into the game. So one thing I can do over here is I also wrote a few Python scripts to merge all these files together. I gotta skip ahead with the turbo key here. Okay, so for example, if I go to the daily challenge over here, okay. I guess it is in the morning over here. Here, pause over that. Now that's okay, because that's all over here in this big file somewhere over here. Something about the morning. There it is. Playing in the morning. I knew it. It's written all over your face. So I go back to the game. Wherever I put it. I knew it. It's written all over your face. Yep, that sort of thing. So when it's compressed and put into the game, in that sense, I fire up a little application, because I'm lazy, called DS Lazy, and I was able to compress that back into a game image, which I can immediately play and test. I mean, I know some people use Excel for a lot of the translations and that data. I know that works all right, but by the time I was getting the testing, I wanted something I could rapidly change, edit, put it back into the game, and test immediately. I don't want to mess around with all sorts of third-party files and doing things by hand. That's the last thing I want to do. So anyway, that's basically how you do the text in the game. However, not all text is text. So, for example, with here I'll open up a little file here called Tink. Open a little program, sorry, called Tink, and I'll go into one file in particular. I'll go into Triodos, the puzzle game, right? Now, if I go to, Tink, you got to open up the object, the palette file first. Then you open up the image file, which in this case is just a collection of letters. Hooray. And I just tacked those onto the kana that was there originally. So I just expanded the file. Then open up the demo message. I get this move Geronimos with the D-pad. That's fine, but when I look at the OAM editor, as you can see, each letter is its own image file. That has to be mapped to a certain coordinate, has to be mapped to the right palette. Layering it does have an effect, but in general, the order you create them is the layer, and the only thing I needed to really worry about was the back window in this case. So in some cases, you need to modify text in this way, and that's a little bit brutal, because it takes so much time to do this. I mean, you can immediately see it in the preview window what you're doing, but it's, again, very tedious and time-consuming. So that's with some of the text as well. They all use a similar method like that for a few things like Triodos. Super Demon Returns and some of the intro text there, you use something like this, but you actually have to go and hex edit a blank field and point to the area or the element in the source file to put a character there. I mean, this had to be done for the credits as well, so that was a bit slow over there. But the nice thing about the graphics, you can export them, add things, put it back in, and there's not much to it there. Fortunately, I was very lucky and most of it worked for me after a while. It took a long time to figure out these graphics. And that takes me to something else too. Some of the graphics there are not graphics, not text. And in one sense, for example, I go to the font, the adventure font, which is also shared with the RPG. For the longest time in the RPG, there was a counter at the end of all of the enemies in battle. Which was tai, or karara if you want to use the reading of it, which is, you wouldn't use it in normal conversation. It's just like a counting unit for like creatures. It's like, literally it means body. So I was looking for it in here. I was trying to find the tai character, and I noticed in the font there I couldn't see it. I mean, the kana was there. There's some strange characters there. Then I started getting into all these weird kanji over there, and none of this is used like in the game as is. I'm not sure why it's there in the font, but there it is. And I noticed after a while, this took like a few weeks on its own, just playing around with the font, that I found a spot that actually had the tai or the karara character right there. So all I did was just null it on out, white it out, resave, build the font, put it back in the game, and that got rid of it. It was a really annoying problem that took weeks to solve, but in retrospect now it just seems simple. I guess the more you learn. And so that's the end of that. And again, editing the graphics is a lot of fun. Some of this I didn't need to edit, but I found a lot of interesting things along the way. So we'll open up the palette, then open up the image. Because if you notice in Triodos DX, all of the backgrounds are based off of Japanese woodblock prints. And I thought that was pretty interesting over there. You don't see this by itself in the game, so it's nice to be able to extract these type of things over there. And so that's pretty much it for the graphics as well, and the text, and the programs that I used for the most part here. This, Crystal, Tile 2, and DS Lazy for the most part. I mean, we use illustration packages for a lot of the other things too. And again, a lot of the files we made were XML files. So I didn't want to have to mess around with Excel or anything along those lines over there. And if I go up, let's see. Yeah, the magazines were its own little entity as well. Go over here. Fortunately, it's XML. It's a little bit easier to understand. I mean, you ignore all the tags that it has over there, but you can edit the text over here, and when that is done, for example, the magazines and the manuals all share the same thing. Well, they share the same style. I just have a little script which runs the DAT tool that converts it and does some very tedious renaming, just for simplicity of my use, because I just want to click it, put that in the game, I rebuild it with DS Lazy, and then play it immediately. This should all be done in a matter of seconds. I'm not going to wait around and do a lot of things by hand. And that's mostly it, I guess, over there. I could go into a lot more detail about how all of this was done and how long it took to change all this text. I mean, the big thing with the adventure, of course, was that it took months to change all of this. and getting into the strings as well, just reading it ball and kana, because all of these files are out of order. They're loosely based on the situation or the time of the game when you get there, and it was tedious, but you know, it worked out all right in the end. And same thing with the RPG as well. There's a lot of repetition in all of this, but it worked out okay in the end as well. So you had a combination of things that are text, things that are graphics, and it was a combination of like figuring out what was what and working with the rest of the team to get all of this together. Yeah, the Japanese voices I had to leave in there, mostly because it was just impossible to change. I mean, I could work out something and try to dub over the voices, but there's over 1,000 voices of Arino alone, all the different voice tests and everything else going with. Yeah, some of these had to be hex edited in from the overlay files, like these descriptions all had to be done with the overlay files. Yeah, I think you've seen all this before. If you can play freely, go ahead and play the game. So that's about it, I think, over there, just as an introduction. Oops. Sound there. Yeah, just checking again. Kacho Arino had, yeah, 1,290 voices. It's just not something I want to get into. I do mean to write a chat sometime. So, yeah, title of the game, Game Center CX Arino no Chosenjo 2, Retro Game Challenge 2. Yeah, start the challenge, challenge start. Today's challenge, or the daily challenge. What was that? Game training tool. Settings, and it goes on and on. Sound test. I mean, you can't choose this yet. Basically, it says like for grayed out options, I'm assuming. Oh, teach me your gender, basically. And yeah, teach me your name. And it goes on. Yeah, that's another one there. After you finish a challenge or something, it says thanks for your hard work. Literally, you must be tired, but you never say it like that. Anyway, yeah, so that's a brief look into that. I might go into a bit more detail if you have any ideas what you want me to cover. So, thanks for watching.